Welcome back to Awkward Insurance. I am so happy all of our listeners keep coming back episode after episode and sharing with all of your industry friends. Even though we started the podcast in 2020, we started a Facebook group in 2022 that has grown to over 700 souls, and I am so thankful for that. It is tiny but mighty, and I love every single one of you. I can't wait to see where 2023 takes us. I am so excited for today's guest. I know I say I'm so excited all the time, but I am really excited for today's guest, which I think I say that all the time too. But we have the most amazing guest, in my opinion, and we get to add Carrie Wallace to our amazing guest lineup. She is our super special guest for today. So welcome to Awkward Insurance, Carrie. Thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it. I am a loyal listener, so it's pretty cool to actually be one of the speakers as well. So thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, thank you so much for listening. And you were just talking about one of our episodes before we got on air, the one about dyslexia that we did with Natalie Russell. Did that one impact you in some way? Is there a reason why you thought to bring that one up?
Well, I love that it was personal and it was not necessarily just about our industry. It's just about people and how they learn differently. And, maybe you don't know this, but I actually have a daughter who has high functioning autism. And so I love when people take the time to tell the story that, not everybody does things the exact same way as everyone else. And that's a struggle. And when people take a moment and impact you, I think telling that story is incredibly impactful. People half the time don't even know they're impacting our lives. That's the crazy part. So
that is the really crazy part when we get messages about different ways. Like I never expect it. Like I expect it, but then I don't expect it. And it is kind of crazy. And that is definitely one of my favorite episodes. How old is your daughter?
My daughter is 23 years old and she's doing fantastic. But, she's carving her path that is different than I guess what you would call typical, but if I've learned anything, there is no typical. Everyone just carves their own path.
Right.
She's actually taught me probably more than any job I've ever had because she makes me see things differently than what maybe I expected them to be. And I would say that for parenthood, period, because I have two beautiful girls, but they could not be more different from each other, which is in personality, in style, in the way they approach life. So anyway, yeah, she's 23 years old and she's definitely one of my biggest lessons in this world. So, yeah.
What would you say the most fascinating thing you've learned in being her mom would be?
I think watching things through her eyes, she has an innocence about her, and that you don't really say that about people in their 20s. You say that about people, in adolescence or, younger.
And people in their 20s have a stubbornness about them.
Right. And I think she has never lost that. So it forces us to be able to see that. And that's a pretty cool way to see the world. So
yeah,
she makes you pause and think about things in a different way. And I also think she puts an exclamation point on being present. Like if you don't slow down and really connect with her, you miss it. It's not a natural thing to have happen, but the people that do slow down and connect with her, it's really a connection that is deeper than the average person that you would engage with, if that makes sense. I don't know. Do you know anybody who has high functioning autism, or do you have anyone in your life?
I do. And he is amazing. My children's godparents, their son has high functioning autism, and he's an adult now. He's an amazing individual doing some really amazing things. So yeah, absolutely. And and just hearing the stories through his mom's posts, they always crack me up, but they give you a totally different perspective on, how you see or maybe don't see things, and they see them in such a different way. I think we kind of all see things in a little different way. We just may not acknowledge it as much when it's coming from our own perspective. So
yeah, and I think in many ways, my daughter doesn't even acknowledge or understand parts of our world that I'm thankful for. Like she sees things as very black and white, and that can be a bad thing, but it can also be a really, really good thing.
Yeah.
And it reminds me like what the basics are. So I don't know. She's a pretty cool person, and I wish everyone had someone like her in their life so they could have a different perspective,
Amazing. I think there are parts of our world that we all wish we didn't understand sometimes.
Amen. Amen. Yeah, no kidding.
Oh my gosh. I'm so excited to have you here. I kind of feel like you're a bit of an insurance celebrity. Do you feel that way about yourself?
Not even in the least. No, but that's really nice of you to say. This industry's been very kind to me, but no, I actually still find myself feeling like I am new and learning every single day about this industry. So,
Yeah.
but that's kind of you to say. Yeah.
I saw something that a fellow podcaster posted not too long ago, Bradley Flowers, and he was saying he's come to the realization that none of us really knows what we're doing. We're all just kind of taking it one step at a time and bubbling around. I don't think those were his exact words, but I love seeing it, to be
Yeah.
honest, because from the outside looking in, and I think this kind of transcends any profession, to be honest with you. When you look at those who have succeeded and you go, what's the secret sauce? There might be one or two things that you can pinpoint, but for the most part, you're just learning it as you go and you're doing a really good job at it, right? And once you figure it out, you keep going with that. So I loved that perspective. Okay. So when you're not in the conference circuit, because that's where I see a lot of you at, is in the conference circuit, what does the average day for Carrie look like for Agency Focus? Because you are the founder of Agency Focus LLC.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about that.
So my average day is I meet with agents typically like we are right now over Zoom, and I do all kinds of things. I either review the value of their agency with them in a report. I have several clients that I am the extension of their leadership group, so I'm their fractional CFO. We go through what their budget is. We go through the goals that they're trying to accomplish. They might be growing by acquisition, so we might go through and say, am I well positioned to acquire? And if not, what things do I need to do? How can we define what a target would look like? So I meet very regularly with my fractional CFO clients. And then I meet with a lot of agents. I have partners throughout the country that are state associations, and any of their members can actually reach out to me for a 30-minute free session to just talk about their agency. Because I do a lot of speaking. And if there's one thing I know, talking about transitioning your agency is not something people want to do in a group of people. They want to talk about it very individualized. So I actually meet with a lot of agents just to give them a safe place to talk about, here's what I was thinking. What should I be doing and how does that work? And so I actually have a fair amount of my time set aside for those one-on-one sessions with agents. So about 90% of my time is working with agents. I have a team. So the other part of the time is coaching and mentoring them and going over the financial models. They're brilliant enough to build for me. And I spend a lot of time doing exactly this, looking at a screen.
Do you feel like there would be any type of benefit for having some of those transitional conversations out in the open rather than so privately? And why do you think agents or agency ownership don't want to be so? I mean, I can understand it's a very private, and I mean, I'm not spilling my personal budget out there for everybody to see. But there are times where I do have those conversations more openly to, I don't know, do things a little bit better myself, or maybe something I'm doing is going to benefit somebody.
It's so funny that you asked that question. Yes, I do think there would be great benefit, because here's what the reality is. Most of the time, people are talking about things and feeling like I'm the only person that feels this way, or I'm the only person struggling with this, or I'm in the minority. And what's interesting about what you said is I'm actually starting a podcast. I probably should have told you this, but I am starting a podcast to actually start telling some of these stories and allowing agents, either in retrospect or whatever, to say, hey, listen, these are the things that I struggled with, or these are the things that I did, and these are the ones that worked. These are the ones that didn't work. Because I feel like because there's this shroud of secrecy, there's also a lot of things being done without knowing all the options or knowing all the ways to weigh it. And so, yes, I believe that I wish these conversations were had a little more publicly. And I understand why they can't, but I also feel that there's great power in sharing your story so others can learn from them. So, yeah.
What's the title of your new podcast going to be?
It is called Insurance Refocused.
Insurance Refocused. Like immediately I was thinking, you're not alone.
I know. Because here's the thing.
That's episode number 1. You're not alone.
Exactly. And I wish I had a dime for every time I said to someone, listen, what you just said, I hear about 50 times a week, but they think they're alone. And I want to stop that. I want to let people know that, you know what? There's a lot of agency owners out there that don't know what they're going to do next. So therefore they don't know how to actually think about transitioning because it's more fear about, well, what do I do after this?
Yeah.
So a lot of it's not even financial related. It's more, I just need someone who cares to talk to and help me work through this. And I get to do that, which is pretty cool.
Oh gosh. I know I have wanted to talk to you for a hot minute. I didn't know about what though, because I mean, what you do is way over where my focus is. I focus a lot on service. I was in account management, CSR, and then I was the personal lines department leader. So what the hell am I going to talk to Carrie Wallace about? And then I started thinking about it, in terms of agency evaluations, whether it's just a book of business that you're moving over, and the happiness of what those clients are going to look like because of the prior service staff moving to a new service staff. Or if you are acquiring a whole agency, which our agency that I was with just prior to the National Alliance, we did do an acquisition of an entire agency and integrate their service staff into our service staff. And had to go through, what does that look like for evaluation when you're working with an agency? So when you first walk into an agency, well, I don't even know what questions to ask. I'm going to let you start talking because you look like you already know what you'd like to say.
Yeah. So I would tell you it looks and feels different depending on the situation. So
yeah. We matter. That's what I'm saying. Account managers and CSRs, that's all I want out of this.
Of course they do. I mean, think about this. Let's just think about this logically. Whether you're buying a book of business or an entire agency, the value lies in your book of business or your customers. And what is the biggest part of a book of business? It is the retention, correct? So
yes,
if that book of business or agency is transferable, it's very important. If it's not transferable, if it is really dependent on one person, one producer, one agency manager, like if they're only doing business with you because of one person or one relationship and you're not able to transition that relationship, the value of that agency goes down. People matter in this industry, period. It matters what your expertise is. It matters how much you connect with people. It matters how much they trust you. Insurance is complicated. It just is. Just like what I do is complicated. And people either trust you or they don't. And if I all of a sudden said, you know what, it's not Carrie Wallace you're going to deal with anymore. It's going to be someone else. They have no name. They have no whatever. And people don't trust them. My business would suffer. I have to work as a business owner to make sure that I build a team, that the trust of agency focus is transferred to them because of the brand that I've created, not it's just Carrie Wallace. It's the same for an agency owner. So every person in that organization has to live the brand and live that trust. And if it's only one person or one service person and it's not actually the agency, that agency is going to have difficulty selling at a higher price because if they lose that person, they lose their customers with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does. It makes a lot of sense. And in terms of when I was in the agency, just the retirement of somebody within our agency, I mean, it is a whole strategy session that we'd have to go through multiple times to figure out because this person, the way we did our account management was not like this round robin, whoever picks up the phone. It was like, this is your person. This is who's going to service you. We worked with various producers, whatever. So when one person retired, it was like, okay, this is like natural in the grand scheme of life, but it's going to freak our customers out. We're going to have to plan on how to transition this. And there's always going to be the level of runoff.
I will also tell you this, like, I personally believe that service employees in an agency are far more valuable sometimes than actually even the owner. They're the ones that are in contact with those customers, building that rapport and doing it year over year over year. So if I have the horrible thing happen to me, who am I going to talk to? I'm probably going to call the person I know. That's going to be my service person. It could be your producer, but 9 times out of 10, if I'm been a loyal customer of that agency, it's the service person that I'm going to reach out to, and that's the person I'm going to want to know is going to help. So we focus so much on the age of the owner or the age of the producer. In my mind, it's really who are the people that have the relationships, and those are the ones you want to shore up if and when there's ever an exit. You know what I mean? Like the health of the agency
Mm.
is where the relationships lie. And that's different inside every agency. So don't mishear me. There could be some that is very producer based and they do all their service work as well.
That's so
I'd
hard.
highly discourage that. But that the
Right.
reality is
Yeah, that's so
right,
hard.
there's plenty of agencies that are like that. But I think the service role inside the agency, if we're just thinking about it logically, with a 90% retention, that means 90% of the book of business is dependent on those people that are ensuring that business comes back. Think about that,
Right.
right?
I know.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at valuing an agency or just talking with one of your clients about the value of their service staff, what exactly do you look at in terms of what can they give back to their service staff that really boosts the value of their service staff? In my opinion, it's going to be education, obviously. Like working here at the National Alliance. No, my entire career was built around. Of course, I've got my degrees and I've got an MBA, but to really know this industry, our industry level education is really where I found my worth and my value and my confidence. And so I talk about that a lot, even if I, weren't
Yep.
here at the National Alliance. But what else, unless education is the key kicker there, what else goes into, 'cause I got so many ideas rolling around in my head right now. In terms of the conference circuit, they're so focused on producers and not too many service professionals get into the conference circuit to learn what I feel like they really could, like producers do. Anyways, okay, I'm going to get on a soapbox. You talk.
So here's the thing. When I look at the value of an agency, there's plenty of things that go into it. First of all, I look at areas of concentration, I look at performance, and I look at culture. So I'm going to focus a little bit on performance for a second in the context of what can an agency owner do in order to increase their performance, therefore increase the value of their agency. We know service work is a huge part of what they're doing. And so the best way to do that is to start thinking about the roles of service in a different way. Really, those expert people that are licensed, that are servicing your book of business, is everything that they do on a day to day basis the most important thing that they should be focused on and the thing that's helping your clients the most? And if it's not, let's tier them. What part of what they do is advice? What part of them requires expertise, requires that expert knowledge that you're talking about? And if you can focus them in that area and allow some of the transactional work to be taken by someone like a virtual assistant or automated or a technology, agencies that are starting to do that are able to create higher efficiency and higher valuations and happier staff. I mean, if you think about it, if I'm a highly educated, licensed service person inside an agency, I want to use my knowledge. Transactional work may not be where I'm loving life. So I would agree with you. But as an agency owner, if you can view it that way and create that ability to put that person in that role, higher efficiency means higher value. And it's the biggest part of your book of business. So if you can make those investments and actually communicate it in a way that says, I'm doing this to actually improve your work experience, your ability to be an advisor role, more power to us. But sometimes that gets lost in translation and it's viewed as you're buying these things to do something that's going to make my job harder. I think there's this disconnect in an agency. Let's invest in the technology that allows our experts to be experts and maybe allows us to think about that job in a different way.
Right. Because you're not going to become an expert while processing ID cards all day long.
You're not. You're not. And it has to be a cultural shift. So the agencies that are making that cultural shift are the ones that are seeing higher efficiency and actually higher growth rates and a higher profitability. And at the end of the day, that's what makes your agency valuable. If you can grow, do it profitably, and be very efficient at it, we are winning the game big time.
Okay, so I just heard the person out there in the universe ask me by way of universe vibes. I'm not a weirdo, I promise. I'm an account manager and I want to do more to bring the value of my agency up. And I don't feel like I'm being utilized according to my expertise. What can I do? Like how do I identify my expertise and promote that to my leadership? What's your advice on
I think what data is going to solve that. I mean, and I know that's probably the last thing you want me to say, but data solves that. Keep track of what you do every day. Keep track of how much time and energy it takes. Because here's the thing. If I'm the owner of a business, I do not do every role within that business.
that? Right.
The most impactful thing you can do is provide the owner of the business with ways that we can get more efficient. And the only way to do that is track what you're doing, identify the areas that have the ability to be transitioned in a different way or automated, or think about it. Don't look at it as a threat to your job. Look at it as a way to enhance your job. That would be super impactful. But it's an insight that the owner may not be able to have. They might not have done service work in years. So keep track of it and advocate it and be part of this overall solution. That is the most impactful thing you can do if you're in a service role. It's actually the most impactful thing you can do in any role, to be quite honest.
Yeah. Okay. So that universe person just said, okay, got it. I'm on it.
Yes.
Just so you have a follow up to that.
Absolutely. And I mean, imagine if we all looked at our jobs that way and were able to think about it, because there's a lot of trepidation if someone brings a new technology and now I have to take 5 more clicks in order to do it.
Yeah.
Well, if that 5 more clicks allows you to not have to do something, there's also a trade-off there. So
Right.
I think opening your mind and thinking about it a little differently, but start with, what do I do every day? And what don't I want to do?
Yeah. I love that. I love that particularly because, of the old verbiage that we're all familiar with, the aging industry that we're in. And there is at times some resistance to adopting new technology, or maybe it might not be resistance, but just reservation to adopting new technology that's going to help us be more efficient. And I believe, like, don't be afraid to try. If it doesn't work, okay, chalk it up to not working, but at least you tried and you figured out what, didn't work and how it did work. And maybe you need to go back to the developer and say, we need something more like this, or maybe there's already a developer out there that can help in a different way. Just don't be afraid to try that new technology before completely writing it off. I absolutely like that. So, what dings an agency's valuation the most when you go in and you're taking a look at stuff? Like, what's the biggest no no?
Well, if an agency is declining, that's not good. If they are not growing, they're stagnant or declining, that will be something that will hurt their value. Also, if they are not transferable. So if you were buying my agency, and let's say my largest account makes up 20% of my book of business, and that account has been in my agency, it's actually an old family friend, and they're going to retire at the same time I'm going to retire. How likely is that account going to stay? And would you pay me for it?
Right.
You would be very, very anxious about the fact that when Carrie goes, that account's leaving with it. So if it's not transferable, people are going to discount your agency in order to minimize that risk for themselves. So if there's any area of concentration or doubt that something is transferable without a person, a carrier, whatever area of concentration we're talking about.
Very niche books, even. Like, one thing goes wrong within that niche and
Yep.
It's over.
And it could be, so niches are interesting. They can be very profitable, but if I don't have the expertise and I'm buying your agency with a very niche area and I don't have the expertise, how likely am I going to be successful in that versus another agency that does? That's the other thing. Like, what would make your agency less valuable to me might make it more valuable for another buyer. So it's incredibly important that you have the right buyers that match or complement what you're doing versus it's just the person I know down the street. Yeah, that's, I think we started this with, people sometimes go to who they know, like, and trust because that's all they know. And they only explore options with a very small group of people because they don't want everyone to know they're thinking about transitioning, and they might limit their abilities because they really don't know the options that are out there. So some of these risks can be mitigated by having the right buyers and sellers come together, which is, again, how do I open that up?
I'm so curious though, if you're going to transition, you're ready to retire or whatever, that why wouldn't you want other people to know so that everybody starts asking questions and really wants to figure out? Or is it because like maybe your clients are going to catch wind of
There
it?
you
And
go.
then, okay,
Yeah. I mean, your
I just
carriers can
heard
catch,
myself
yeah,
say it as I
yeah.
asked the question.
Your carriers can catch wind of it and you might lose appointments. Your clients could start leaving, which means now your book of business already starts dwindling. Like, yeah, there's risk associated with it. So it's
Yeah,
it's
dumb
a
question,
thing.
Dustin. All right,
No,
move
no,
on.
no. It's not a dumb question at all because logic tells you, please let as many people know as possible. But the reality is it could actually hurt your business.
Yeah, I guess maybe if you're looking to transition and you want the word out, you better do it quick. You better be prepared to make that decision fast, I
No,
suppose.
or I also think that there's, if you want to transition, do your homework and actually engage with a team of people that can help you do that in a way that keeps it as quiet as possible, but gives you the options. So, there's a
Yeah.
lot of agents that I help them find opportunities and buyers. There's brokers that do that all the time, but you pay a fee. So there's ways to do it without, just hanging a sign out front that says, I'm for sale. Like that's never going to happen. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any one thing that's universal amongst everything that you've looked at? Any one thing that's universal that promotes a higher valuation?
Oh,
Like if there was one secret sauce, secret trick, kind of, I don't even know that needs to be a trick, but just
well, volume creates a higher value. So the larger book of business is always going to be pretty valuable. And I would also say, I go back to that transferability. If you use technology that makes it very easy and seamless for something to plug and play versus someone who's all paper, imagine how difficult that transition is. So making transitions need to be seamless and easy. And so technology does that. Being aware of what your risks are and minimizing those risks or make it much more transferable. Growth always will be higher. An agency, same $1 million agency, one's growing and one's declining. The growth one will always be more valuable. The one's growing and profitable, now it's even more likely it's going to be higher. So if you're growing, but you're losing money and you're spending too much on your people. Let's just think about that for a minute. So let's say you have a compensation structure in place, same $1 million agency, one is growing and the other, they're growing at the same rate, but then you go to their expenses and one has base pay, the other one has a commission structure in place that actually grows with the agency. The one with base pay, if it's too high, think about how difficult it is to change someone's compensation structure in a transition. So that would be a more risky agency because when I buy your agency and I come in and say, okay, all producers and account managers, I'm going to put you on a structure that makes sense. I'm now going to have attrition and have more likelihood that I'm going to lose those customers that want to actually do business. So having
yeah.
a solid structure,
Good point.
having a solid structure is really important.
It's something to kind of look out for as you're an account manager looking, maybe be okay with being comfortable with an adjustable pay scale rather than a base pay rate. That's something to look out for.
Yeah,
Because then, I mean, with the adjustable pay rate, well, then of course, growth is expected along with that.
that's
And the
right.
better you do, the more you make. And instead of being stuck in when am I going to get my next raise or whatever.
I love the idea of I want to be with an organization that's focused on growth. So if they're focused on efficiency, putting me in a position where my expertise is utilized and I get compensated if I have more production and I'm set up for success with the systems that are in place, I'm going to take that job all day, every day. But if I'm in an organization that's not setting me up for success and I don't have the ability to grow, then I wouldn't want that comp structure. So it all kind of works together.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, Carrie, I've learned so much already and I've got so many more questions, but I know we only have so much time and Mac is probably in the background going, Dustin, it's about time. So I've got just a couple of questions in such a male dominated industry. What is your secret sauce? What is Carrie's secret sauce? in this industry?
Oh, that's a great question. I honestly have only ever worked in male dominated fields. So I think anyone's secret sauce is be consistent. And I think I actually don't really view it as male, female. I actually view it as I hang out with the people that I admire, and I think vice versa. So yeah.
Yeah. I think it kind of goes back to what we talked about in the beginning with your daughter and just being present and being aware and observing what's around you and maybe even shifting your perspective on, some of the social norms that you think are there that may not actually be there. Maybe it's, I don't want to say in your head, but just your perception from where you're sitting, right? Shift the way you're sitting. Just turn your seat a little bit.
That's right.
See what you see on the other side. Right? What do you do to decompress? Because my God, you're everywhere. So what does Carrie Wallace do to just kind of settle down and reset?
Yeah. So I don't know if you knew this, but about a year and a half ago, we uprooted our family. We had lived in Columbus, Ohio for over 20 years, and we made our vacation home our permanent residence. So I am a 4-minute walk to the beach, and I walk the beach regularly. So we walk. I have a dog named Hudson. I take him for long walks, and we get outside as much as we possibly can. We live in Hilton Head, and it's beautiful. So the more I can be outside, the better off we all are.
Awesome. Any parting words or soapboxes that you have?
I think that every single agency should have a plan. And if you don't know how to build a plan for your agency, you need to reach out because it is your largest asset. So I find it crazy that such a high percentage of agency owners don't have a budget, they don't have a perpetuation plan, and they leave it up to chance. So,
but why don't they?
Because it's hard. It's hard to think through those options, and you're working inside your business. You don't pick your head up and think about this, but it's your largest asset. You have to have a plan. Please, please, please write down what your thoughts are, because unfortunately, it hurts the people you love most if you leave it up to them to try and figure out. So. That's my biggest soapbox. If I could change one thing about this industry, I would get them to have a plan for their business. It's valuable. So please protect it.
Isn't that ironic?
Yes.
That we're in the insurance industry and advise people all day long about what their risks are and protecting their future assets and the ones that they love in all the various different ways, whether it's on the commercial side and protecting your business or the personal side, life and health side and protecting your, whatever. And then here you are being like, you're literally doing this every single day and you've not thought about doing it for yourself.
I know it blows my mind. If I wish, I hope I impact this industry in that way, that people find it easier to figure out a way to document what their future is or their future wishes for their agency. And if I can do that, I feel like I've made a very positive impact on this industry.
Yeah. Oh gosh. And Carrie Wallace is but one person. So if you can't get on her docket, get on somebody's. Just start the conversation somewhere, I would suppose would be the best advice because you are but one person with a whole life to live. Thank you so much for being here, Carrie. I have enjoyed just having this conversation and your smile. You've been smiling through the whole thing. I just love it when I have a face to look back at. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I hope you have a wonderful holiday.
Absolutely. You too. Toodles, everyone. Thanks for hanging out and listening to another Awkward Insurance Conversation.
If you haven't already, be sure to join the Awkward Insurance Facebook community. We have an amazing group of people on there.
And for more episodes, head over to the National Alliance website at scic.com. Now go forth and be awkward. Toodles!
That's awkward.